Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Want to boost revenue and attract new customers? Partner with Harvest Hosts, a free marketing platform generating $50 million annually for farms and small businesses. Connect with 250,000 travelers eager to support farms like yours by offering space for one RV overnight. No hookups needed. Our members will support your farm and you keep 100% of your revenue. Visit harvesthosts.com today. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. Today, my guest is Marjory Wildcraft, the founder of the Grow Network and a leading voice in the survival and preparedness movement. As a global advocate for homegrown food on every table, Marjory has inspired hundreds of thousands to embrace self-sufficiency. She joins me today to share her insights into the intersection of online marketing and growing food. Marjory, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Michael, appreciate you having me on. I hope I can do some good for some folks today.
Absolutely. Well, and I've obviously, as we kind of got into the space, you were one of the original ones there. How many years have you been sharing your expertise?
Since 2009. Yeah, my first DVD. We actually used to sell DVDs, right?
So is that 15 years then?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it is. I hadn't tallied it up myself.
Yeah. So then 15 years ago, the space was very different.
Yeah.
What caused you to want to start sharing your expertise?
Well, I had, actually my first degree is in electrical engineering.
Oh, interesting.
And then while I was in Asia, managing some networks for Motorola as an engineer for engineering manager, I ran into Robert Kiyosaki. This long before he was famous, and his stuff like totally inspired me. And I ended up moving to Austin, Texas, creating a real estate investment business.
Okay.
And I was volunteering on a project to get locally grown food into an elementary school, and then found out that there were not enough local organic farmers to provide even part of the vegetables for one small school.
Yeah.
And I just had a breakdown because, I wasn't a farmer. I wasn't a gardener. I didn't know any engineering, right? Business. And I just had a breakdown because I knew there's only 4 days worth of, the 9 meals to anarchy story, right?
Correct.
And I'm surrounded by 20 million Texans who are armed to the teeth. And I just said, oh my God, and, I was really doing well. I was actually doing so well with the real estate. Robert asked me if I ended up being the lead testimonial on a couple of his infomercials with Time Life, books. And I said, look, and I was loving it because I had wanted to learn how to have money make money.
Yeah.
But I just realized, there's lots of people who know how to make money. And I'd made my first million by the time I was 40. I was working on my 10 million.
Wow.
And I just said, look, there's lots of people who know how to make money. There's almost nobody who knows how to grow food. And as much as I'm not particularly wanting to do this is apparently the job I'm supposed to do. When you get the call, everybody wants the call from God. When you get it, you may change your mind.
Yes. Okay. So then you were thinking about, there wasn't enough farmers, but, now you're really more in the herbal homesteading survival space. Talk about, kind of that. Was that more of a... Yeah,
it was because I realized that, farmers come from gardeners. And really, when you start looking at collapse scenarios, which I have been ever since then, it's backyard food production. And we definitely need small farmers. Please, we do. But it's backyard food production. And actually, really, about 75% of the population in any given food shed should be doing something in their backyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
We cannot have a farming network provide everything. I think almost everybody here is going to understand that.
Absolutely.
A lot of it's got to do with genetics. Backyard producers, even though we've got less space, we've got more time and we can experiment. And you don't have time to figure out varieties. And it used to be the community fairs where the exchange of information was, like who had the best tomatoes or strawberries or whatever it is. And the farmers would look at who's winning and going, oh, can I get some of those? I'll try that next year, right? So we really have to, there's a lot we have to rebuild. So I created, I figured out how to grow food, and I was teaching workshops at my place, and everybody said, you have to make video to get this out to a wider audience. And so I did, and I didn't realize we made this DVD, built a website, and I actually really love, homesteading. And I thought, oh, great, I can go back, to research and having fun, all these advanced permaculture techniques and stuff, And but little did I know it, with that first DVD, that day I turned into a digital marketer, whether I knew it or not. And because we invested, back then it cost like $35,000 to make a video and get the DVDs. Video technology is just exponential, but back in those days,
yes,
right? That's what we had a professional videographer, and he even did it like. But it wasn't so much. It was the producing the DVDs and you know what I mean. So, and we put a bunch of savings into it, and I had to figure out how to make that money back. And then, God help me, I just decided to build a whole organization, because it's not just about food. Home medicine's so important. Treating infections without antibiotics. All the skills that you need in a grid down situation. And I thought I should find these and gather them and document them and sell them. And we did. And over the years, I'm not really a big business. I would say, maybe the Grow Network has grossed maybe somewhere between $8 and $10 million over that. So that's how much product I've sold. And I've sold mostly digital courses or small products. So this is not necessarily I'm trying to sell the beef or the veg. I'm trying to sell on that. So and which is a great side business for a lot of farmers. So what we're going to talk about today is how you sell that online. And I didn't know it. I hate marketers. My first degree is engineering. You want to talk about day and night, like evil bastards. Honestly, we could do them off and we'd all be good. But I had to become one, I had to. And it's been an interesting thing that, I have not pushed the line on that the way some of them do. And we have not made the same kind of profits they do, because I'm still going to maintain some integrity and mission and purpose, right? But I thought what I'd do is whip up our lead funnel here and then just show people what I've done and how I've just talk about this funnel. So and just give you some of the insights and what I've learned about digital marketing over the years. And a lot of them have been really hard lessons and counterintuitive. So let me we practice this before. This is I like to use dark screen. So I think it's easier on the eyes, but depending on how you go. So first of all, the very first thing up here, free for 72 hours. We just put that up there, and we do have a countdown timer, but it doesn't actually do anything. You could watch it for days if you wanted. But we found that urgency and countdown timers make a huge difference. And let me step back for one thing, and I don't necessarily think people have to go to this level of doing it, but I had to in order to make this business work.
Yes.
And it's called split testing. And the concept goes like this. So let's say you get some traffic coming to your website. And a split test is like when you have two different sales pages and they're identical except for you change one thing. And then as the traffic comes in, you have one person go to page A, you have one person go to page B, and then A and B and B and B, and you split it like that. And then what you do after you have a certain amount of traffic, usually, we need to see several hundred clicks on each side. Often sometimes several thousand depending on the product. Then we look at the results and we say how many people registered, right? And then just one thing got changed. So that's how I know that free for 72 hours converts. It's because we've done split tests. And generally, I don't have the exact numbers here, but I'd say about depending on where you put it or why, anywhere from 10 to 30% more registrations from that. Yeah.
So then what platform is this hosted on that your page is on?
This page, I believe, is just a Thrive website, Thrive Pages WordPress website. Now, the free for 72 hours only, and I don't know if we have the countdown timer on this page. I think it goes to the thank you page.
Okay.
And that's a plugin, and I'm not sure which one my team.
But it's literally a simple WordPress site. Now, Thrive is very powerful, so it does have I believe Thrive itself has the A/B testing built in, correct?
Yeah, I have not done testing in a while. I had a really big team at one point in time, 8 full-time employees, a bunch of contractors, actually 2019 and 2020 hit. And I got to tell you, my business has been getting hammered. You would think with the pandemic and everything that we would be exploding, and it has not been the case. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
Online. And I'm telling you now, I don't care what the government says. We are already in a depression. I mean, I feel it from what people are telling me and what we're seeing with sales.
Yeah.
So the next most important thing is going to be this headline here, and this has been split test. I would say we had 4 or 5 different headlines we tried, and this one won hands down. How to grow lots of food in a grid down situation, even if you have no experience or older or out of shape.
Okay, and that sentence right there, you would never say that sentence to anybody because it just doesn't make sense. It's a run-on sentence, but it works.
It works. Yeah, it's a good thing I never paid much attention in grammar. No, and marketing. So here's and I tried other things, like grow all the food you want, or your backyard is going to be a paradise, or we tried all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
This particular headline is a formula from a guy named Perry Belcher.
Yes.
Who Perry's an amazing marketer. He's a really kind of a jerk human being. I've worked with him in the past and definitely have I've learned a ton from Perry. Let me just say that. And this, I believe if you look up Perry Belcher headline formula, you can actually pull this formula up and create your own headlines this way. And that's what we did. And every time, and I've done this numerous products with numerous other things, and his formula always converts higher. It
Interesting.
Just does.
Yeah.
I gotta say that guy Perry. I mean, I've been in an audience, 5,000 people. The main event, and there he is up there scratching his balls. I'm like, Perry. Okay, but the guy is so crude, but I think that's what makes him a brilliant marketer. He's like totally into things that motivate you, like sex. And drugs and whatever. So anyway, brilliant marketer.
He's going back to the basic hierarchy, the
primal need.
Yes, primal needs. Yes, absolutely.
So this subheadline again. This usually when I'm doing the split test, I start from the top of the page and then work down. And so this is for people who want the fastest and easiest way to produce healthy and delicious meat, eggs, and vegetables, because that growing your own food is like printing your own money. Yeah. We kind of stole that line, growing your own food is like printing your own money, from that guy. What was his name? Ray? I think he was the first one who came up with it. The guy in Los Angeles that's like growing on the sidewalk. Okay. It's such a great line. I mean, everybody's using it. But that's the other thing. I used to try to be all unique and original and everything. And then everybody started copying and stealing my stuff. And now I'm realizing, what? This is just a big melee. You might as well get what works.
Yeah.
And I've written several books, and I got one published by Penguin Random House, and I was taking writing class. I thought, man, I ought to learn how to write. I should take some writing classes. And one of the things that I learned there is they said, good authors borrow and great authors steal. And, I'm like, again, I'm keeping integrity with as much, but if something works on the internet, it's so funny. I mean, I've had some long video sales letters that absolutely did not convert at all, and I saw people copying them and stealing them. I said, you guys should check to see if it works or not,
Yeah. Okay. Well, but I think what you're saying is very important. So if go to the big competitors that you're fighting, or not fighting, but you're competing against, the ones that are making the most sales, and see what they're doing that works, and again, steal it.
Yeah. And if you can figure out and one of the best ways to see if it works or not is to be an affiliate for them. Honestly, I sell a lot of other people's products, and I've bought a lot of stuff just to go through their funnel and see how they're doing it. What was their sales page like? What was their follow-up like? What was the email sequence? Like that kind of, was there an upsell? All this kind of stuff. I kind of hate to get into too much competitive stuff because I find I get depressed. Like, oh my God, they had this really cool thing, and I don't know if I can implement that, and like that. So don't beat yourself up, and you don't have a lot of time to waste on it. But
Yeah.
If you hear, you're in the space. If you hear something good, use it. You know?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So this is I want to talk about this video here. And this is kind of it really is a crappy video I made with a handheld cell phone that I don't think even had good resolution. I'm not sure if I play it whether it will come through or not.
Well,
but
let's try it.
Yeah, let me talk about it for a second though. I have split test this with a still image, and I've split test this with another video with almost exactly the same script that we were all done up, and I had my professional videographer, like a guy like shoots high level people in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, and this converts higher. So, and I've read that before and learned that from other marketers that if you're in healthcare, if you're in finance, people want to see really crisp, clean, perfect stuff. And other than that, people really want it kind of crappy sometimes does better. That doesn't mean you should make it super crappy, but there's a really famous example of a marketer who was doing this long sales letter, and somewhere in the middle of it, he made a mistake, and he said, "Hey, note to editor, please wipe this out and don't do this." And he kept on going, and they split test that video, and it turned out that one converted higher than the one where they'd cleaned it up. So
that's interesting.
It is.
Well, and I think especially in the space that we're in, for farmers, for people trying to help people, gardens, survival, if it was a super slick, they would actually get turned off because they're like, okay, what is this? What is this? This feels scammy to me. But
exactly.
It's from the heart. It's, it looks like you're in your backyard doing, recording the video, and that's what they want to see. Yeah.
I'm going to click this play button and see if you can hear it. Let's see if that happens. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
All right. So I basically present to them some worst case scenario, which is what a lot of people I have tried to get people to grow food forever, right? And there's the survival preparedness angle, there's the health angle, there's the spiritual angle. I have tried all of them, and the one that's the people who buy the most is the survival and preparedness people that really get it. And believe me, I would love to spend more time talking about the spirituality and how wonderful it is and the magical things that happen. I would love to do more on health, but those people just don't buy it. I used to call it the health cesspool. I don't know if you've ever seen all those summits where if you've got, the truth about cancer, right, or whatever, right? Yeah, Ty and Christine. My stuff never converted with them. Because people who have cancer are focusing on cancer, and though they should be growing food, they're doing research on molybdenites or whatever the heck, oncology or whatever. So so that's it. I found that painting a worst case scenario does help. I mean, unfortunately, if it bleeds, it leads. So I'm talking about the stores being closed and the grid being down and that kind of thing. And it is true when I deliver that in the webinar. I've always had a focus because that's where I came from, and I feel I'm a good person to the God knows what he was doing, or she knows what she was doing, because I went through panic, and I had panic attacks, and I was freaked out for years until I really learned to grow food. So I can totally relate to people who are going, oh my God, I've got to learn this. So I will say over the years, my messaging has changed, because when I first started marketing, I was like, this is really hard, because it was hard, in the beginning when I was learning, I was like, this is really hard, and it's difficult and all. No, you don't, that doesn't sell. You better be fast and easy and, like that. And I have drilled it down and simplified it and dumbed it down. And that is another thing is I was after I'd learned all the basics, I was so excited about all the advanced permaculture stuff and this and how you can stack that. And the market for that is so small. What are we talking about? Maybe 100,000 people on the planet. You're not going to make any money with that. So I realized the real need and if I'm going to have a business is to the absolute beginner. So that's what this is targeted at.
Yeah. So next to your video, you've got a bunch of bullet points. Talk a little bit about the bullet points.
Right. Yeah. So these are things that people are most interested in. And partly how I developed these bullet points was I gave the webinar live, maybe, I developed it and then went over it and went and changed it and tweaked it maybe 8 or 10 times. And as I was doing it, I'm watching the comments, and then we have the Q&A section, and I'm, seeing what are the points that people are most interested in. And this is it. How much space do you need? What's the highest calorie foods? A complete plan. What's the status? How long will this crisis last?
So
basically,
yes,
this crisis is going to last the rest of your life. Yeah.
You're using their questions. You're using the questions they ask you on the page as they're writing the page for you almost.
Right. And I'm coming up with some basics, There's also a website called, I believe it's called askthepublic.com, where
Interesting.
they'll give you, if you type in backyard food production or something, they'll give you like Google search quantities on it. And you can kind of get some guidance that way for what kind of questions people are asking. But I've got it in really simple bullet points right here next to the video. It's a short video. Let's see, what is this? Yeah, 1 minute. You want it less than 2 minutes. People have no attention span, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We have a retail store, and it's dealing with people. So recent case in point, we're doing pies for Thanksgiving from the store. We were doing a deposit, a $5 deposit online. We very clearly, in the title of the product, said that pies are $19.99. In the text of the product, it said the pies are $19.99. You're only paying a $5 deposit. And then the first person that came in the store, I thought the pies were $5.
It's totally that all the time. Yeah. I know, right? We only have one poor woman who works for me part-time that does customer service now, and I'm like super careful about what we say and how we say it and the whole thing. Yeah, so again, I've emphasized down below the fastest, easiest, and simplest ways to produce calories and nutrition, especially in a crisis. And I deliver on this, in the webinar, and I can tell you what the webinar is. It's a 100 square foot garden, so 250 square foot raised beds.
Yeah.
And I'm in Colorado for a couple of years, I lived there, and I can raise more than enough vegetables for myself in that bed space in one growing season. And I've done this for years, and I've actually taught this system for decades now. And I personally know there are hundreds of thousands of people that have implemented this. The other is chickens, a small flock of laying hens, 6 actually, 1,500 eggs. That's 3 egg omelets every day. For breakfast, for you. You've got breakfast handled for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
And then 33 dozen eggs to trade or give away. And then the other is a small rabbitry with a buck and 3 breeding does. And I have found, there's thousands of ways to produce food, right? But those 3 are the simplest and easiest for the average person who knows nothing. And I do the raised beds with cinder blocks so that way they can sit on them if they have a bad back, and the cages with the rabbits are up high. I mean, I gear it toward people who do not have a lot of physical ability intentionally. So, now one thing you might notice here, one thing that's not here is bonuses. So we have split test off and on bonuses. So at one point in time, we tried 3 bonuses or 5 bonuses or 7 bonuses. And it turned out that the bonuses did not make a significant difference. And so we just kept life simple and got rid of the bonuses. The other thing, let's see, what's the other thing? Authority stickers. So let's see if, I don't think we have them on. Yeah. Cause I've hosted Mother Earth News seminars, and Reuters gave me an award, and we've been written up in USA Today, and we have all those stickers, right? And we found it didn't make any difference whether you had them or not. So again, just keep it simple, and we got rid of all of them. And again, the split testing, you just see what do people respond to, and it makes sense in this niche. Most people, like when I wrote my book, I was envisioning it'd be a New York Times bestseller, and then I found out what the New York Times was, and I said, I don't really want anything to do with that organization. And whoops. So here, let's see. Yeah, we got the SMS number, and I mentioned it in there. I need them. I do. And, and we do not do. That's one area that's some low-hanging fruit for us, is to do more marketing via SMS, and we don't right now. But that is very effective if you do it very carefully. And then, so here's a little bit for people that do scroll down. Let me stop for just a second and talk about, I've spent a lot of time on the psychology of who my buyers are.
Correct.
And there's a very simple one called what is your color, your sales color. And there's 4 personality types. One is competitive, one is humanitarian, one is methodical, and the other is spontaneous. And a lot of people, and those 4 in combination playing off of each other are kind of a great thing. And Seinfeld is the classic example of the 4 personality types. Like Seinfeld's competitive, and what's the woman's name? She's the humanitarian. And is it George is the methodical, and then of course Kramer is the spontaneous, right?
Yes.
Spontaneous people, I do not market to them at all. Like whether they buy from me or not is totally, it's just a random thing,
Correct.
right? I'm not.
Yeah.
And they like. Well, let me stop in one other thing. One thing you'll notice on here, my very first websites, I had all these beautiful pictures of vegetables and meat and apple, food and it was just beautiful and colorful, and that just does not convert very well at all. So this type of a thing with a headline, maybe an image here and there, but my first ones had images everywhere, and it was just fantastic, and you were going to be amazing, and it was like a beautiful scenery. It just doesn't convert at all.
Okay, so the picture of you, and again, this is an audio, and we'll throw the video up on the website too, so you can come up here and look at the video. But for people that don't go there, a picture of you and a jean shorts, a red kind of like tank top, but you're hauling a piece of sheet metal. And you got a tractor in the background. It kind of looks a little, unkept, a little messy there, but it adds to that whole authenticity of the entire thing. It looks like a prepper location, I think, is why it converts well.
Yeah, honestly, that was we called it the resource pile. You know that pile where you have stuff that's still kind of useful, but you're not going to store it in the barn.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know. Oh, I know. Yes, we got a whole spot on the farm for that. So
yeah, kind of in the back somewhere. Yeah, and I think my daughter snapped that photo of me one day. I was back there grabbing something, and I said, "Wow, that's a really good shot." It's funny because one of my team was like, "Oh, I hate it being so messy," and she like photoshopped out all the stuff. I said, "No, I love it being so messy." So we've never split test that. I don't know. I'm like, hey. I'm just going to leave the mess there.
Yeah. Well, it's authentic. It's absolutely authentic. And then beside that is a couple paragraphs that there's some authority in there. Your second paragraph is technically a lot of authority right there.
Well, this is it. And so the ones my community are methodicals, right? We do get some competitives. And we do get some humanitarians, but the primary market are the methodicals, and people who are methodical. And you think about it, I mean, you got to be methodical to grow food, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're going to be planting stuff, and it's going to be months before you're going to get it, and you have to take care of it. And you mostly, if you're good, I'm not as good as that. You want to you want to track it and all that kind of stuff. The spontaneous are never going to do that. And competitives will, because they want the highest quality food they can possibly get, and the humanitarians will do that. And there's nobody's just pure, everybody's a blend of stuff.
Yes.
But methodicals are going to go down here, and they're going to want to know who I am, right? They're going to want to figure this out, and you're going to check and like, is she legit? Right. Methodicals also will do a lot of background research on you and stuff like that. So they do want to see it. And then that's it. Some other things we found on the very bottom here, I've got our address and the phone number and a way to contact us, thehappiness@thegrownetwork.com. And this is and I think still to this day, we have always had, and partly probably because it's my own age, we've had a lot of baby boomers. Mm-hmm. And baby boomers were always very suspicious of websites. And when you put down there on the bottom the address and the phone number and a contact email, it's just a reassurance thing for them. And we found that, it does help bump up conversions.
Yeah. Interesting. So they may not call the number. Now, here's a good question. Is there a person on the other end of that line, or do they have to leave a message?
They have to leave a message. Sometimes she's monitoring it, but it's Nikki.
Yeah.
She's part-time. And if you catch her, you can do it. Most of the time it's a message. And the happiness, she'll usually get back to you within a few hours to a day or two. But again, we're a small,
Yeah.
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 So that's, a lot. I just wanted to point this out about how, this headline and even like that it's in red lettering, a lot of this we've spent time, testing, and, it's interesting. And I'll see if I can get you the ebook that I had read a long time ago from Ryan Dice, who used to be a partner with Perry Belcher. And I know Ryan. I used to live in Austin there. And actually at one point in time, we were trying to work out a deal where I would be a content creator for them, and I'm really grateful. We did it for a few months, and it didn't work out. But they have an ebook, like 50 split. What we learned from 50 split tests, and this was done years and years and years ago. A lot of what I've talked about in here comes out of that ebook, and I test that regularly, and year after year after year, it continually turns out to be true. So.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I'll get you a copy of it, and then you can post it up for folks. And I'm sure Ryan won't mind. I think he's got his own links scattered all through it anyway. So it's he did it like all of us do. You got an ebook that's a promotional thing that you give away so people go hang out with you. And I do, of the two of them, I really did like Ryan a lot better.
Ryan, I feel like there's now. Didn't they used to have traffic and conversion? That was their conference for a while.
Yeah, I went to that a couple of times. It was really good. And
then
overwhelming. Yeah,
they sold it, and I think they just got it back, from what I understand. So they may be doing that again. That is, I guess, from what I understand, one of the top 5 probably marketing conferences to go to.
Ryan's, between Ryan and Perry, they've got it going on. Yeah, they really do. All right, I'm going to turn off the sharing here. So,
well, that was fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that exact part with us.
Just something to learn about. I'm trying to figure out which. Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been quite a journey. If you can set up split testing, I mean. You're going into digital marketing. For most people, I think if you just kind of get some of the overview ideas here and maybe adjust some things, like most people do have way too many pretty pictures, just take some of the tips and go with it. I ended up being a digital marketer, which I didn't want to be. So yes, I used to attend all those conferences and take all the classes and hang out with everybody, and because that's what I had to do to build the business.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, because I feel like the same thing. Like you do all that stuff, and then you almost get a little bit burnt out, and you're like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I think that's exactly where I got. Is I used to go to 3-4 conferences a year. I mean, I used to actually be, working for some of those people in the space, and some of the names that you hear right now that are on the stage at Traffic and Conversion. I was running the back end of their launches, so I know, all how that works. I mean, we were spending, $300,000-$400,000 on ads for one launch, which is absolutely mind blowing when you think about it. But talk a little bit about for the farmer, the food producer who's interested in, obviously every farmer should have their own website. I feel like farmers should be selling digital products, at least doing live classes on their site, if not recorded classes. My wife actually has a sourdough class that we shot here at the farm because her in-person sourdough class was so popular, and we got 3 kids with a 4th on the way, and she did not want to do it anymore, so we recorded that. But talk a little bit about what do you think the top takeaways for them would be?
One is your headline, super important. Don't go crazy with all the photos and images. Most likely your people are going to want to read details. And you don't want to overwhelm them. And if you do have a short video there explaining things, keep it under 2 minutes. Be as succinct as possible. Tell them what you're going to get, and the most important things that they want to know. So like you'll walk away with a plan on how to grow half of your own food in your backyard, right? How long will this crisis last? I mean, these are things that people want to know. So try and find. The bullet point, and make the sign up easy. Now, what you don't see on there is after you've signed up, We do have you on an email drip thing.
Correct.
That over 72 hours, and then toward the last, your time's running out,
Yeah.
and then of course
Yeah.
you're still up there. But that push helps, and it helps me too. Honestly, when I'm signing up for other people's stuff, I like that.
Yeah. Well, I think people are so busy right now. If you don't give them that 72 hours and remind them, they're going to just let it blow by and they'll never watch it. Like I know I've spent some really big money on some courses, and I just the other day realized, oh my gosh, this course I spent a lot of money on. Mm-hmm. I've only gone through 1/3 of it. And it's because I could always watch it tomorrow. But if there was a deadline on it, you better believe that I would have watched it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. It may not be much, but just having some extra stuff, or even just giving away a free ebook or something like that, and building an email list. That was one of the biggest mistakes I had in the beginning. Is I was just selling these videos, and I was just selling the video, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I need to start collecting emails. So that way, and even if as a farmer, you want to collect those emails. So that way, when you do have all the beef that you want to sell in a hurry, you've got a list of customers like right away.
Yeah.
And your email list, if you're a local farmer, your email list doesn't have to be that big.
No.
I mean, we're only talking to 200 people or whatever, right? Can make a huge difference to your business.
Yeah. Our email list is right around, I think, 4,000 right now. But there's something really interesting. I saw another local farmer, a farmer actually who's in our store, who has product in our store, he had a cooler go down. And so he put an email out to everyone and said, hey guys, look, I'm going to have to load all this into a truck and take it up to a freezer. But why don't I give you 10% off right now and you guys all come buy it? I thought that was brilliant. That's the perfect way to use email or texting. Yeah. Texting is more effective in that way because people check their text more than they do their phone, their email. Yep. But I just thought that was so brilliant because again, there is a cost to taking that up to the locker and getting that frozen and keeping that frozen up there. So I thought that was really clever.
That's exactly why you want to have an email list, and it doesn't have to be like you don't have to start getting into writing newsletters and all that stuff. And if you do, even if you can just repost something that you find somewhere that's interesting, or if you have a couple of inspiring quotes, I mean, just, once every couple of weeks, send them something just to remind them that you exist. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake in the beginning for me. I didn't even have an email list. I wasn't building anything, the email that's been a conversation that's been going on for a long time is, will email die? And it's like, no, email is not dying. No.
It's changing, but it's not going to die.
It's changing. But, that was people got on, there was like a 2-year window when you got on Facebook. If you'd have hustled hard, you could have built a huge Facebook presence. But then Facebook owns the platform, and I've been on YouTube for years. I think technically I have like 35,000 followers, but I've been shadow banned for 5 years. I didn't even really realize it. Yes.
Because you were talking about, I know exactly what you were talking about, and I know why. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we weren't even going to that often. I mean, it was just, there really is a gentle suppression on backyard food production and homesteading and home medicine. I was really being careful not to go into the whole COVID thing. So
you weren't getting banned because of that? Because that's obviously was the big thing, 2-3 years ago that everyone was getting banned for. But again, the fact that, and you talk about herbs too. I know that is definitely a shadow ban as well.
Yes. Well, that's it. Yeah. We talk about herbs. So I didn't even know it. I was getting kind of psychologically depressed because I am putting content out and nobody's engaging with it. I'm like, why am I doing this? And then there's a couple of different IT people actually that said, you've been shadow banned for at least 5 years,
Yeah.
So I've actually switched. We found a guy who very inexpensively will upload to other platforms. I've been really pleasantly surprised by Substack. I had no idea.
Interesting.
So that was, I know, right? Interesting. So we're on like Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. Well, Brighteon, we get a lot of traffic there, but that's because I do a lot with Mike Adams pretty regularly. But I think I agree with a lot of the marketers in the very beginning. I think social media is just a gigantic suck. If you're local and you've got your local, like I live in Rincon, friends are Rincon, I've got the beef and I send out the email. Yeah, that totally works. Or if you've got a really small business and that works. But, for like yours, 300,000. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've bought a couple of Facebook engineers automobiles and we were never able to get
Yes.
We were never, I mean, if I could get ROI 0, I would have been like, that's the winning thing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to have the 5 or 6 upsells and the and all the, I just wasn't going to do that, I just we'll have 1 or 2 or whatever, but I just wasn't going to go there, and that's we weren't going to make a ton of money.
So you were in Austin. Now you said you're in Colorado.
No, I was in homesteaded in Texas for about 15 years. Raised the kids there. That's where I learned about how bad the food system was, and then the divorce, and I was in Colorado for a couple of years. Really, really lovely little mountain town full of organic farmers. I loved it there, but I grew up in South Florida, and I'm like, hey, if we're going through the apocalypse, I want to live where chocolate grows. So I moved to Puerto Rico.
Okay. All right. And you're in Puerto Rico now.
I'm in Puerto Rico now. I love it here. I just love it here. Chocolate does grow on trees.
Okay. Well, that'd be hard to argue with. I was out in Colorado a couple months ago for a wedding. I've been out twice this year, literally for 2 different weddings. 2 of my siblings got married this year. And Colorado is beautiful. I love it. I could move there in a heartbeat if it wasn't for the water issue.
There's water, and for me, it's so dry. And where I was, it was high desert, and it was actually one of the warmer parts of Colorado, and the winters didn't bother me. It was just my skin crawling off of me. I was like, I can't handle it. And I love that little town. Oh my God. It was heartbreaking.
Which town again was it?
It was called Paonia. Paonia, Paonia, Colorado. And it's this lovely little off the beaten path, organic farmers and orchards, and just a little river runs through town. And I had a farmhouse that was just right near the center on an acre of river bottom soil, and water rights that went back to the 1800s. I got to say, I think that growing in the desert, if you have a good, reliable source of water, is probably the easiest growing anywhere. In all the different bioregions I've been in.
So this is not in your wheelhouse. You probably wouldn't, but the strawberry tip market this year got infected by one nursery in Canada that produces millions and millions of tips, which means that the southeast will be 30% down in strawberries across the entire southeast. That's how badly it hit the market. The only completely disease-free tips right now are coming out of the high desert on the edge of Idaho, on the Snake River. It absolutely, what you're saying is absolutely true. Absolutely true. So you're right. I believe the high desert or just desert environment, if you have clear, clean, good water, and that is another aspect, is water in the U.S. especially is so contaminated. Even well water. People in my town are like, oh, I've got great well water. I'm like, actually, based on the tests, you've got chlorides, you've got aluminum, you got sulfur. I mean, like, you got high bicarbonate. The water's awful.
Forever chemicals.
Oh, dear God, yes.
I know. Isn't like the groundwater in all of Iowa, not Idaho, is just unfit for drinking
it's
because
nitrates.
of all
the nitrates are so high. Our nitrates, technically here on the farm, in the middle of the summer, they do spike over the EPA limit.
Yeah. I've really loved growing in different places. Texas was a real challenge. It was like the apocalypse every year in Texas. We had the drought, we had the flooding, we had the pestilence. And Texas and apparently if you're near that 30th parallel, like weather patterns can be really, really weird. And we were right in that. And in Central Texas, it was like, oh, it's the intersection of 5 different bioregions, which sounded wonderful, except for that you get the weather pattern for each one of those every year. And it was hard, I mean, I was producing food. You have to be tough and ingenious. And so Colorado was actually wonderful. I really loved it there. But in Puerto Rico, oh my God. Now everywhere is different. I mean, here you've got a whole thing because you've got molds and stuff like this. You get air flu as a huge issue, and too much water can be an issue. But
so
do
you ever
all year growing season? I'm totally down.
So you guys don't freeze it all down there.
Not at all. No, that's another problem is because in places where you get a good good cold snap, it wipes out the insect population, which is nice.
But you guys don't. The insects are always there.
They're always here. Yeah. But that's actually a benefit too. I mean, I'm looking at raising black soldier fly for chicken feed and, you know, how do you use like mango season when it comes in? There's just a gazillion mangoes, you know, well, let's see if we can ferment those and turn them into whiskey, or can we you know, turn them into black soldier fly, or, you know, I mean, so.
Well, I think it's very interesting. And again, I'm sure going to get flack for this because I haven't thought this out too much, but I'm going to go out on this limb and say this, is that the further you get from the, what's the line that goes around the middle of the earth? The equator. Yes, sorry. The further you get away, there's a lot more development happening. And I say, like, people have developed more intense living and centers of civilization, more advanced, I guess, what I would say. And I think it's because you have to, because it's harder to live further away from the equator. If you're on the equator, it's warmer. It's easier to grow things. I think there's a lot more things growing naturally.
Yeah, well, we've got skin, you know, like, so I don't have to cut fire. And I did for a long time when we were in Texas. We had a back 40 where we cut firewood. Yeah. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful bonding thing, and we did it whenever people came to visit, and having the wood burning stove, and I loved it. That's a wonderful lifestyle, but it is, you know, some time and energy to make that happen. And yeah, you're right. The further you get away from the equator, it's kind of like the same principle with growing anything. Like, you know, chickens are jungle fowl, and the further, and we've got chickens that are adapted to living in Idaho. But the further you get them away, the more you're going to have to build a building for them and make sure their water doesn't freeze and feed them, because, you know, or plants. But the same thing is reversed. Like, I was in Cuba, and I went to they had this amazing screened-in greenhouse. It even had a screened-in foyer to keep insects out, because, you know, a lot of those European vegetables do not grow well in the tropics because they're not made for this kind of heat and humidity.
Correct.
So,
but there's a whole other subset of vegetables that are. I mean, yacon,
absolutely,
yams, all that.
Yeah, but it's that principle of
correct.
You know,
absolutely, yes. The vegetables we're used to. I mean, like, I'm assuming you can't really grow Brussels sprouts and leeks too well down there.
Leeks. Well, we've got different versions of, like, you're right. And Brussels sprouts are tough. And most of the Brassicaceae is a little bit hard. And but you know, but you're right. But there's still a gazillion other things here that grow. I think the other thing I love about this area is there's so many plant people here. Like, this place grows so much, so it's a natural thing. I host a plant and seed swap party every other month, which I highly recommend you do in your community. And oh my goodness, we have people turn out all the time, and it's just astonishing the stuff people are growing. So,
that is cool. What part of Costa Rica are you in?
I'm in Puerto Rico, so this is the United States. Costa Rica is its own
Puerto Rico.
country.
I am so sorry. Yes, it's been a long day.
I get it. No, it happens all the time. Yeah, I know. I'm on the western side.
Okay.
It's a little surfing village called Rincon, and in the 60s, there's some reefs here where there's, like, apparently almost perfect waves. I'm not a surfer. And they had a surfing competition in the 1960s, and a bunch of the surfers just never left. So there's always been a little community. One of the reasons I'm here is the surfers do have an ethic of eating higher quality food. And I want to be around that. And honestly, Puerto Ricans are, you know, Puerto Rico imports like 85% of its food.
Correct.
And San Juan, they're just like anybody in a big city. You know, they got the obesity and the disease and all that happening. So, but out in the Campo, in the countryside, it's a different story.
Fascinating. And the nice thing is, because it is part of the U.S., you don't have to have a passport to fly there.
Amazon delivers, Home Depot's here, but it takes a little longer. It's way. I looked at living in Costa Rica for a while, and just the hassle of the customs and the time and the and Fascinating. Tico's a great people. Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to your whole mission here, because I know we have a fair amount of homesteaders and stuff that also listen to this. For growing food, what are a couple tips for folks that are, you know, maybe they've failed at gardening before, maybe they're just getting into it?
I'd say start small, right? And I really recommend people start with a flock of backyard chickens. By the way, everybody always thinks, oh, Marjory, gardens, you know, and I'm like, no, you know what? The most productive food sources are animal products. So in that webinar, sign up for the free webinar and you can see.
Yes, we will drop the link below for folks.
Drop the link, yeah, backyardfoodproduction.com. By the way, that's another thing. I do a lot. Publicity has really been the way that I've built this company. And so I have what we call vanity URL. So I'll do it, backyard food production instead of the Grow Network /821, whatever.
Yes.
So chickens, like I said, in the 3-part system for being able to grow half of your own food in a backyard size space in less than an hour a day, it's actually about a half an hour a day. A garden with 2 50 square foot raised beds, so 100 square feet, you can produce anywhere from 30 to 60,000 calories in, 1 or 2 seasons. 6 laying hens, each laying hen will produce about 250 eggs a year. And it ends up being, and as I said, your breakfast is handled.
Correct.
It ends up being about 94,000 calories. And then a backyard rabbitry with 1 buck and 3 breeding does, which ends up being 75 to 85 rabbits a year. A rabbit is identical to a chicken, like you can just substitute it for all your recipes. It's about the same size. So that's like having a chicken and a half every week, which is, it's the protein requirements for a family of 4, and it's about 234,000 calories. So a rabbitry, hands down, and we always, if we're talking about a grid down situation, you have to always talk about how do you feed your animals and how do you get the nutrition for your garden.
Yes.
Herbivores, and people go, oh, are you going to raise chickens for meat? And I'm like, no. Chickens are omnivores, and they compete with me for food sources. I can come up with enough scraps and stuff and other things to feed them to get my eggs, and the egg production is their most useful function. Rabbits, on the other hand, there's a lot of stuff, like when I was in Texas, you're doing your pruning in the wintertime. They love the bark of the peach trees and the apple trees. There are rabbits living up in the Arctic, right? Rabbits live everywhere, so you can find food sources for rabbits.
Correct.
And you can get to feeding you can get everything to be sustainable. I'd really recommend for people who are just beginning, buy the rabbit food, buy the chicken food, buy the seaweed and get because you've got so much to learn and so much to figure out. Don't try to do it all at once. Start small. Just start with those components, start one of those components and get it going. It'll take a couple of months to kind of get into that rhythm, and then do another one, and then do another one. And within a year, you're going to be producing at least half of your own food. Your health is going to change dramatically. You're going to be so much more calmer. You're going to be a leader in your neighborhood because that system is infinitely replicable. And honestly, those are the best nutrition and calorie sources for people to grow. There's tons of it. There's mushrooms, there's bees, there's honey, there's all kinds of stuff, right? Food forests. I love food forests. It's going to take you a couple of years to get one of those going, right? So I've cherry picked the absolute easiest ones. So,
and I'm assuming if they go sign up for that webinar, after they watch the webinar, do you have additional trainings on those, how to raise your own rabbits, that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, absolutely. At the end of the webinar, we make you a book and a training bundle offer. Perfect. And so I wrote this book, Penguin Random House. Man, that was quite a score. It's called that's a big one. The Grow System, the Essential Guide to Modern Self-Sufficiency from Growing Your Own Food and Making Your Own Medicine. Oh, hello. And we have a whole academy. I mean, I've been working with homesteaders, and we've been building, we have 33 courses, but it has those basic ones in there. So, because, the webinar has to lead to something, right? That's what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Marjory, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I love geeking out on marketing, and then obviously feeding people is a passion of ours as well. Yeah. So it's talking about 2 of my favorite things. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time today. Any final thoughts before we go?
Well, y'all, we are headed into a famine. It's been orchestrated. There's an attack on farmers. I didn't know about the strawberries. It doesn't surprise me. They just keep taking little Jenga blocks, and this whole thing is coming down. And you need to start growing food, and you can get started today. You can start building that chicken coop or that rabbit hutch or getting the plans together for the garden, but please get started immediately and use my stuff, use anybody's stuff. I don't care. Start growing food, because the world is going to be a lot better when more of us are self-reliant.
Absolutely. And your website, the main website you have is it the Grow?
The Grow Network.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's where they can find everything. But for this one we talked about today, it's backyardfoodsystem.com, and they can go there, sign up, watch that webinar, and check out all the awesome stuff you have.
Yeah.
All right.
Michael, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.